Hello and welcome to Wagner's Tech Talk. Today we're going to talk about PinUP Popper Baller Installer Setup for the AtGames Legends Pinball. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the hardware, and most of the time talking about the software, as well as installing both VPX as well as future pinball tables to your PC connected to the AtGames Legends Pinball. Let's get started. First, let's talk a bit about what PinUP Popper Baller Installer actually is. It is a free software that is provided to the community to allow you to more easily install and set up virtual pinball tables on your PC. In the case of this video, we'll be setting it up on a PC connected to our AtGames Legends Pinball. There are a number of software components included with the installer, including Visual Pinball X, which is a pinball game engine, and there is a huge library of user-created tables available on the internet, at last count over 1,300, and all of those you can install to your PC. Future Pinball is another included real-time pinball simulator, and there is a variety of tables available. All are launched using the PinUP Popper front end, which allows you to easily navigate the installed tables and play them from an impressive interface. PinUP Popper Config allows you to add, configure, or remove tables. We'll be using this tool in this video to add 2 tables to our setup. Speaking of which, this installer does not include any ROMs. However, it includes 2 awesome pinball tables, including Scotty Wick's Leprechaun King and Terry Red's Retro Flair BAM Edition. Both are awesome tables that you're guaranteed to enjoy. While not required to play VPX or future pinball tables, the VIBS board, or Video Input Backglass Switchboard, will allow you to utilize the backglass on the AtGames Legends Pinball with your Windows 10 PC. This is a board that you can purchase directly from AtGames, and I understand some may not be comfortable with this type of modification, especially when it comes to placing the VIB switch button. However, this simple mount will allow you to place it anywhere under the machine. Also, you may be able to get it 3D printed by your local library. Check out this video on the guide page if interested. After adding the switch button, I fed the HDMI cable from the VIBS board down into the main unit, and I put some electrical tape around it, and I did drill a hole in the back as well while I was at it in order to keep this cable secure and keep it from being tugged on and pulled out of the VIBS board. I also could have used a cable tie or something along those lines, but electrical tape seemed to work just fine. If you wind up getting a VIBS board, I highly recommend that you check out the official video from AtGames on the Video Input Backglass Switchboard. This video covers both types of production units, the early and later production, as well as the HDMI and OTG connections to the PC. And as you can see here, it's very easy to switch the video signal to the PC by simply pressing a button. Now I'm briefly going to show you what my setup looks like. I have the main HDMI coming from the PC directly to the ALP playfield, an Ethernet cable here, and a single USB cable going to a powered USB hub. I could have used the DV port with an adapter, but instead connected this dual HDMI to USB 3.0 adapter to the VIBS board. I also have a powered USB hub, which is connected, of course, to the PC, and the connection for the OTG is plugged into the USB hub. The ALP, PC, and power for the hub is plugged into this UPS, which protects all of these devices from a power surge. On the top, we have the HDMI cable going to the PC, that's the main playfield connection, and the OTG connection to the powered USB hub. I do have a few recommendations for you for a smooth installation. It's also found in the prerequisites section of this guide. If you're going to be installing Pinball FX3, you may want to install and set that up first. I do have a detailed guide on how to do that, and I'll place a link up above to make it easier for you. Also, I recommend temporarily disabling your antivirus. You can of course turn it back on after the installation is complete. And installing to a clean Windows 10 machine is highly recommended. and connect that PC to the internet ahead of time before running the installer, and have all the hardware already connected, such as your VIBS board, before starting the installer, so you don't have to reconfigure everything more than once. Now you want to press the channel button on the top of the Legends Pinball, then set the mode to OTG, display to main display, and degree 90. Then press the VIB switch button to switch over to the PC's display. From there, go to wagnerstechtalk.com/ALPBI. It'll take you to the ALP PinUP Popper Baller Installer Guide that you see here. And we'll scroll down to the table of contents and click the installation link, and it'll take you right to the installation section. From there, we'll scroll down just a little bit till we get to the download. And there are two options for downloading Baller Installer. One is the Facebook group and the other is Discord. If you haven't already joined the group, go ahead and do that first. It may take a little while for an admin to approve you. And once you do, move on over to the announcement section. And from there, we'll go ahead and expand the announcements here and go ahead and click the download for the installer. So we just click the button and it'll take a little while. It's about 1.3 gigabytes in size. I went ahead and copied it over to my desktop for easy access, but don't run the installer just yet. Next, we're going to take a look at JoyToKey. JoyToKey enables PC game controllers, such as the OTG connection on the ALP, to emulate keyboard and mouse inputs. After clicking the download link, go ahead and launch the installer to install JoyToKey. Simply follow the prompts, hit Next, and after the installation is complete, go over to the guide. If you click here, you can find some additional information on how to set up JoyToKey. But if you're using the arcade control panel with your ALP, you definitely want to grab the one that ends in PinUP. This uses a different key combination for the nudge buttons, as well as the additional keys offered by the control panel. Now we'll go ahead and paste it in the Documents JoyToKey directory, and I'll go ahead and move the other one that I have here to a directory called Old. You can either delete it or move it if you want. And now we'll go ahead and go to the lower right hand corner and locate JoyToKey, right click it, and go ahead and terminate JoyToKey. Now when we restart it, you'll see the one profile that has all the mappings already set up for you and ready to go. Now we'll go ahead and set up both monitors. To do that, right click on the desktop and go to Display Settings. And what you should see here is we want display number 1 to be the main play field. So you want to move it around to where display 1 is on the far left, and display number 2 is going to be your VIBS or your backglass screen. Again, double check everything is perfectly lined up here, otherwise you may have some issues later with things not looking right. Scroll on down and you'll see Scale and Layout, and what we want to do here is make sure it's set to 100%. Windows may try and set it to 150%, but regardless, change it to 100%. For the display resolution, it needs to be 1920 by 1080. And you want the display orientation to be landscape and multiple displays set to extend these displays. Do the same for display number 2, your backglass. So it should be scaled and set for 100%. The display resolution here is hard set at 1920 by 1080. And again, you want to make sure it's set for landscape and extend these displays. Now we'll go ahead and run the installer. Simply right-click the icon and select Run as Administrator. Be sure and read and then accept the license agreement and go ahead and click Next. If you prefer to install to a different drive, simply change the default of C: to the drive letter you prefer, hit Next, followed by the Install button, and the installation will proceed. Towards the end of the installation process, you'll get this message. Go ahead and click I accept for the DirectX installation, hit Next, and Next again, and the components will be installed. Click the Finish button, and leave the Run Config checkbox checked, and click Finish. Be sure and read through all the components that will be installed here and any additional notes, and then click the Next Page button. At this point, we'll assume you'll use the main playfield and VIBS for your backglass with no DMD, so you'll select Option A and a playfield resolution of 1080p. Once that's done, click the Apply Layout button at the bottom. You'll now see a screen that checks to make sure that you've arranged your displays as mentioned in the installation procedure. Everything should be set correct, so simply click the Next button at this point. Here you'll see 4 simple steps. Click Step 1 to test the display layout. You should see the status of all monitor settings seems correct. If not, return to the prior page and correct any mistakes that were made. Click the button for step number 2, which states Install Apps. You'll see a few dialogues appear. Don't be concerned. Click the OK button on this dialog that the B2S backglass server has been registered, and Future Pinball will load and then automatically close. And from there you'll see inside the window installing apps is finished, and it's now time to move on to step number 3. Now click the Setup Display Positions button to assign the positions of each key window element, such as the playfield and backglass. Now we'll set up the backglass display. So we'll select backglass and then drag the window over to the backglass display or VIBS monitor. From here you can resize the window by dragging a corner. However, the easiest way to resize the display is to simply click the full screen button over in the middle. So we'll click that, and there we go, perfectly aligned. You want to make sure all of these are set to a default state of always on, and we'll go ahead and select the playfield. That looks good. Set it for always on, and click the Save Settings, and we'll do the same for the DMD. And for here, we'll just drag it into the middle somewhere. We can adjust it later. Make sure all 3 windows are set for a default state of Show Always On. Click the Save Settings button and the Exit Setup. Now click the Apply Display Settings to all apps, and all apps will be configured. If you click the Next Step button on the DMD page, there's nothing for us to set up here, and we can simply click the Close button. Now we're going to talk about how to add new tables as well as the media for those tables. I have 2 sets of tables here, Future Pinball and the Goonies under Future Pinball, and under VPX we have Funhouse. And we're going to go ahead and add both sets of tables. To do that, we'll go ahead and back out, and we'll go ahead and open the group that was created when the installer was run. This includes Future Pinball, PinUP Pack Editor, PinUP Popper Config, as well as the PinUP Popper front end, which is our user interface, and lastly VPX or Visual Pinball X. We'll go ahead and launch the front end, and everything you see here is being streamed over from my ALP, which is in another room. And there's Future Pinball, and inside of Future Pinball these are all the tables that I've already installed. I had to test this stuff out, guys. You know how that goes. So anyway, we don't see the Goonies in there, so let's go ahead and add it. We'll go to the PinUP Popper Config application, go to Game Manager, and below is a full list of all the games I have already installed. Now I'll click the Add New Games tab, and for the Scan Filter emulator, I'll click the drop down and select Future Pinball. And to make sure it's not already there, I'll click the Scan for New Games, and of course, it's not. So let's move on over here and change that by going to the Future Pinball directory, right-click and copy the Goonies, and we'll go ahead and open the game folder and paste it into the Future Pinball Tables subfolder, like so. There we go. There's our file. All right. If we go up a level, I just want to show you there's some additional directories here. Some tables may require scripts, libraries, BAM, all kinds of stuff that may also be necessary. But in this case, that's all we need. So we'll go ahead and close, and then click the Scan for New Games button. And of course, we now see the Goonies in the list. We'll select that and click the Add Games to System button. Now our game has been added. We'll click OK. And we'll go to All Games, and here is our game right here. Before adding media to the game, I often like to test it beforehand. I think it's a good approach. So we're going to move over to Future Pinball and go ahead and load it up. And you will see it in the list here, and that's because I recorded this at the very end. So here's our table. I'll click play, and when we do, this is what you might run into potentially. If I click in the window here, it basically crashes. And it's not a big deal. There's a simple fix for it, and I'll show you what that is. In the lower left, if you right-click on the Start button and type services.msc in the Run box and press Enter, then it'll bring up the services. And if you click in the list here and press N, it'll jump to the ends. And if you see NAHIMIC service, go ahead and stop it for one. So we'll right click it, go to properties, and we'll go ahead and stop the service. And then in my case, I prefer to just disable it so I don't run into it in the future. And click apply, and then OK. And once you do that, we'll go ahead and relaunch the same game and see what happens. And of course, everything loads just fine. I'll click up at the top so you can see the VIBs or back glass. And there we go. There's the back glass to the game. And we'll switch back over to the play field. Press 5 to insert a quarter. And 1 to start the game. So now we'll close out of Future Pinball. And we'll go ahead and click the import button to import metadata for the game. And for this particular game, it doesn't appear that the lookup is actually having any success. So in that case, go ahead and click the web lookup button instead. And voila, there we go. There's some results. We'll go ahead and click this one. And then we'll go ahead and click the import fields button. Now we'll click the media link. And now we're going to assign some media, such as the wheel image, the playfield, and the back glass. So we'll click this small icon below the wheel image. And notice here we have one result. We'll go ahead and click it in preview. And yeah, that's a nice image, but not exactly what I want. So I'm going to remove this comma and click the web search button again. And now we have quite a few more results. Let's go ahead and click this one and hit a preview and see what it looks like. That's nice. That's a lot closer. Let me try the one at the top. Hit preview. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. I'll click use image. And now we've assigned that image to the wheel image. Now we'll do the same. We'll remove the comma. And now we're looking for the playfield video. And we'll go ahead and click the preview button and see what it looks like. And yes, that does match our table. So we'll click the close button and the download and use button. There we go. Now we've assigned the playfield. Let's do the same for the back glass. Yes, we'll back out that comma, do a web search, and we have a couple of results here. Let's click this one, hit preview, and the back glass does match. So we'll click close, and again, download and use this video. Now we can go ahead and click close, and at the bottom, click save to save the results. Then we'll click close on the dialog and go ahead and click the exit setup button. Now we'll go ahead and launch the front end and just check out our changes. So we'll navigate over to Future Pinball, press enter on the keyboard in my case since I'm using a remote keyboard, and let's see if our table's there. It is. I'll go ahead and hit enter twice. Go ahead and launch the table. I'll press 5 to put a quarter in or a credit, 1 to start a game, enter to launch the ball. And here we go. I'll hit escape and then enter twice and exit the table. Now let's add a Visual Pinball X table. We'll start up PinUP Popper config and go into the Games Manager. We'll then click the Add New Games tab, and where it says Scan Filter Emulator, we'll select Visual Pinball X. And from there, we'll click the Open Game folder. And for this particular table, there's 2 files that we're going to copy. One is the .vpx or table, and the other is the .directb2s or backglass file. So we'll go ahead and select those and copy them over into the tables subfolder. This particular table also required some ROMs, so to do that, I copied them into the vpin main ROM subfolder. Now we'll click Scan for new games, check the game that we're going to add, and click the Add Games to System, click OK. And then at that point, we can go ahead and minimize this window. So we'll double click the VPX Visual Pinball icon and go ahead and start it up. We'll go to File Open and select Funhouse in the list, which is right here. And once it loads, we'll take a look. Just pretty cool to look around at how it was designed. Alright, so at this point we'll go ahead and click the play button and go ahead and start up the table. I'll switch it over so you can see the back glass or the VIBs display going to the back glass. Now we'll go ahead and start the game. If you're using the JoyToKey profile for the arcade control panel, just hit the associated button. Be sure and check out the guide, which tells you what all the buttons do. Now we'll press Q to bring up the menu and click Quit to Editor. Since our table test was a success, we'll go over here and go ahead and click the import button and go ahead and import the metadata for this table. And if we look down below here where it says ROM, you can tell that it does indeed need a ROM, so that's good information. Now we'll click the media button and go ahead and assign the artwork just like what we did with future Pinball. So I'll move rather quickly through this so you don't have to watch the entire thing again. And there we go. Everything's all mapped. We'll go down the bottom, click Save, and then click Close. And in Game Manager, we'll click Exit Setup. Now let's go ahead and launch the front end again. And let's take a look at it here. We'll navigate off to the left where Visual Pinball X resides, and we'll see if our table is here in the list. And if we keep on scrolling over to the right, now I'll set up a camera on the machine itself so you can get a good look at what it looks like in real life, not going over a remote desktop. As you can see, the gameplay is extremely smooth. The JoyToKey profile is working just fine, and we're able to play the game and enjoy it. I want to say a huge thanks to the developers of PinUP Popper Baller Installer, as well as the table creators. You guys rock. Thank you so much for all the work that you put into this. And just to make sure everybody's aware, there is a huge library of both future Pinball as well as VPX tables that you can install. We're talking in the thousands of available tables, so definitely check them out, find the ones that you want to play, and install them to your PC connected to your ALP. All of the information that you've seen in this video is also available on the guide page, so definitely check that out if there's anything you missed, anything you don't understand, as well as how to set up FX3, which I kind of ran out of time on this video to show you that, but here you can see it's launching from the front end and it plays wonderfully. On the guide, you'll also find information such as adding VPX tables, which we discussed, as well as future pinball tables. All of this is step-by-step instructions that'll make it easier for you, as well as an extensive troubleshooting guide should you run into any difficulties. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it extremely helpful. If you did, please click the like button. It's a great way to leave a tip, I guess you might say. And also, if you'd like to see more content from me in the future, please click that subscribe button, and I will talk to you again very soon.